Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Naaman with the Great Millstone Camp here in D.C., the District of Columbia. Let me see if the sound is okay. All right. Back for another video. But first and foremost, Kahalo Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kahakawadash, and of course, once again, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. All right. Who rule well. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways. All right. Pushing the truth. All right. Making sure by our being out there on the highways and byways, and also the numerous amounts of videos that go out across the airwaves, all right, for edification's sake, push this word all throughout the four corners of the earth in hopes of waking up the hopeful elect of our nation. All right. Here's a copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. All right, because I'm not profiting off of this. This is just used as a teaching tool. All right, let's see. And this young man here, this site is Cool Colas, brought up an interesting topic: the problem with black TV shows that confront racism. All right, and you know, this devil's gonna always try to make himself look like the good guy in everything. That's just Edom rolls, you know, the so-called, the self-professed white man. All right, but his biblical nationality is that of Edom. All right, descendants of Jacob's brother. All right, Esau. So let's go ahead and get into this, and he breaks it down. All right, so here we go.
I don't know about y'all, but I cannot stand when TV shows attempt to tackle the issue of racism. To me, it's extremely phony, and we really need to break that down. I'm your host, Kukolas, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. So let's get into it. Starting in the late 1990s all the way to present, I would see the string of black TV sitcoms where they would create some type of episode where elements of racism was being discussed or addressed. And you would see this in a lot of different sitcoms such as That's a Raven, The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, and then in shows like Static Shock. One thing that I noticed that all of these shows have in common is that they tend to have a mostly black cast, but then they'll just randomly insert one white person in that cast of characters. And typically that white person who they insert is either the best friend or a close friend of the black main character.
The reverse tokenism.
With Google Play Games, you can play unlocked. Unlock bigger screens.
Reverse tokenism in that it's done in order to fit their agenda. You'll see what I'm talking about here.
And when they have these episodes where they attempt to address racism, they involve these white characters who are randomly placed in this cast of characters. And typically when they put them in that episode, they're positioned as somebody who is usually either a strong ally or some type of almost social justice warrior. So they make it seem like this white character is extremely justice oriented and is catering to the needs of black people, when this is seldom the case for the dominant society on a regular basis. Even in some instances, they will even go as far as to make it seem like that white person was the most harmed by this act of racism. Think about the show Static Shock when they attempted to tackle racism. There's a lot of people who parade this shit around like it's the best thing smoking, but it's the furthest thing from it. As a matter of fact, I'd even say that it's the worst example of all of those that we've actually seen. And one of the things that I noticed even in the Static Shock episode where Richie's dad was racist is that his dad was a blatant racist. And he was blatantly racist against Virgil. And in this episode, they made it seem like Virgil was less impacted than Richie was. And they kept doubling down even on that. A lot of people were sitting there and they were like, well, that's Richie's dad and all this other stuff. Listen, y'all. Virgil was the one who was being racially mistreated by Richie's mayonnaise-eating father. And so, even when he had a discussion with his dad, Virgil that is, his dad was sitting there kind of samboing, and he was like, well, just think about how Richie was affected by all of this. So they were literally making it a point to put the emphasis on Richie's emotional impact because of his dad's racism. But we really need to break this down a lot further than what they actually showed. First of all, if his dad was as a blatant racist as they showed in this episode, chances are this is not the first time that he showed this kind of racist behavior. Exactly. So for Richie to be so surprised, I kind of just don't believe it. Because let's just think about it. Like, if his dad was just that open about it when Virgil was there, chances are Richie knew about his dad's behavior. So for him to just start acting all, upset and sad and all this other shit and trying to run away and saying, I hate you, Dad, I hate you, and all this other shit, I have a feeling Richie knew. And even if he didn't, that mama who was trying to pretend to be a victim, that mama of Richie's, I guarantee you she knew that her husband was a mayonnaise-eating white supremacist. And I'm going to take it a step further. She probably could have been racist her damn self because she knew who he was before she married him. She knew that he had these types of ways. This shit didn't just come out of thin air. She knew that he had these tendencies. Now, a lot of you are going to listen to me. You're going to say, well, Coca-Cola shows don't usually go that far, blah, blah, blah. This is why I don't like the shit, y'all, because they're doing this in order to psychologically get you to look at it in a certain way from their perspective. They want you to be focused on the idea that everybody is just so horribly impacted by acts of racism. They try to make it seem like racism is just being mean, not a system that mistreats, oppresses, and undermines a class of people on the basis of race. So when they make it seem
exactly, these devils really think they're slick, all right, and this is, well, up to a certain point, it has worked. You gotta give it to them, because a lot of Jake really don't take it upon themselves to really look deeper into things, as he's going to explain, because you have a certain type of Jake that just wants to go along to get along, all right, because he's so caught up in chasing after the goodies that this wicked ass society throws at them, all right, that you tend to discount certain things. Even if you see them, you tend to downplay it, but we're coming to a time now that everybody is starting to see this piece of shit self-professed white man for what it really is. Let me get this scripture here. All right, because this is this devil's deceit. All right, and one of the last 2 or 3 videos I've been going into this. This is Proverbs 26 and 26. It says, "Whose hatred is covered by deceit, all right, his wickedness shall be shewed before the whole congregation." All right. And again, you've got this, if anybody's really paying attention, you have a so-called chosen over here in America pushing to get your First Amendment rights taken away from you. All right, in order for you not to be able to criticize them in your own country. That's a little bit off topic, but then again not. But where I'm going with this is these so-called brave Americans just allow these foreigners, these Israelis, to come over here, and this is the level of privilege afforded them over the years. I'm talking about these Israelis, all right, the nation of Israel, not I mean the state of Israel, excuse me, Slovakia. All right, the state of Israel, those bastards. All right, and they are really, because whatever they've got on your leaders here in America, oh boy, for them to just roll over or bend over or however you want to put it, and just let these motherfuckers come over here and. Again, I'm saying this because the person that they appointed to head CBS is a Zionist. And she just, do I have it? Okay, where is that? Let's see. I was just watching it. Let's see if it's, yeah, Dan, he saw something that fucked him up. January, he's gone. But what happened is she's firing all of the black people at CBS. They just got laid off. And they can do that now because there's no civil rights division of the Justice Department. You see how surgical they were with this shit? Yes, that piece of shit, I forget her name, Weiss, Judith, was some shit, that heads CBS now. Yeah. She and motherfuckers are like, well, what the fuck is going on? You know, just, and they'll reassign those Edomites, all right, within that organization. I was like, damn, I just saw this like not even an hour ago. I was looking at it. I thought I had saved it, but yeah, this is what, as an extension of this video. Yeah, so how doesn't it directly affect us? See, these are the mind games they play, all right? And unfortunately, what's really evil is these immigrants that come over here and jump on the bandwagon. Yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. But let's go back to this video.
Like Richie is more impacted than Virgil is by this act of racism. They're trying to make it seem like it's just a thing where someone is being mean and everybody's impacted about this whole thing.
No big
but
deal.
There's no reason why the spotlight should have been taken off of Virgil and put on Richie because of the fact that his dad was a racist, and most likely he and that racist ass mama probably knew that shit was a thing. Now, if you look at a lot of these kind of more recent shows where they tackle racism, one of the things that I noticed is that they kind of stepped away from just having a white boy or a white girl involved in the scenario for the most part, with the exception of the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, and we're going to get into that in a minute. They kind of stepped away from that, but they kind of do this thing where they have a couple different kind of plug and chug scenarios that they put in these types of situations. It's either there's a situation of police brutality, there's some type of male monster at school who says something racist, and then one of the black kids has to check them, or it's a black woman who is presented as a social justice warrior, and she's in there trying to snap on somebody because they're being racist. Proud Family, Louder and Prouder probably did the most explicit example of this that I can think of in recent, because they made it where they made a whole episode that kind of subtly suggested they were talking about reparations. And so they made it where Penny and her friends were all social justice warriors. And that does include Zoe, who is a white girl. One thing that you all have to understand about the behavior of the dominant society is that they tend to do this thing that I call the racist watered down agenda. So how this usually looks is that if you look in the past, they typically will portray a trope or some type of agenda that is racist, that is anti-black, that is showing some type of negative image, or is some type of negative scheme that is used against black people. And then later they'll show a different version of that, but it's more watered down. And typically it's nothing more than an offspring or an offshoot of the original agenda or trope that they portrayed. But because it's so watered down, it's hard for most people who are not paying attention to this thing to notice that it was something that originated from a racist message. I'll give you an example of where I've seen something like this. Look in WWE.
You think you know David's story. A boy became
one of the clearest examples of this kind of intellectual property theft issue that the dominant society does is the character John Cena. John Cena started out basically being the Eminem.
There was a whole video they did, more than one, where it was exposed how they do the Jake wrestlers. All right, and it's just another form of identity theft, and you know, making Jake's the just like they did in old Hollywood, you know, the buffoons and whatever have you, and they prop people like this up that are supposed to, well, let's just let him tell.
Of WWE, and he was wearing jerseys, backwards hats, he was wearing chains, he was doing the word life thing, he was rapping, and he was on some yo homie yo shit, as everybody knows. And then they kind of subtly turned him into this kind of weird army man. He was like a more watered down version of what he was to begin with. So originally it was scalping black culture and then trying to walk around looking like a black person who's into hip hop culture. And then later they made him this army guy who has accents and certain aesthetics that were related to the original character, which is why he'll still wear these jean shorts and he still has this hip hop-esque type of music in his theme music when he comes out, and then all this other stuff that you typically see in our culture. So again, there's still accents of what this originally came from in the first place. Bringing all of that up to say that what you typically saw when they would try to tackle the issue of racism is now transformed into something that I would call controlled opposition. For those of y'all who do not understand what controlled opposition is, it's basically when the dominant society controls the way that a justice-oriented narrative looks. So in other words, they're presenting the image as if they are allies to individuals who are justice-oriented. Therefore, they present images of them tackling things that are usually racist and oppressive. But mostly, they are individuals themselves who are exploitative and are just portraying these messages so that they can't be accused of racism, and often garner the attention, support, and the love from fans who see them portraying these types of images. So it makes it seem like they're a company or a group of people who should be supported because they chose to side with this idea that racism should actually end, when in actuality, they are individuals who are exploiting black culture in order for them to have content that they can profit off of. These aren't real social justice oriented narratives. This is really just pacification for black people. It's a way for black people.
Exactly. All right. And that's why we always tell you, never trust your enemy. That's scriptural. It says never, not sometimes, not maybe. It says never.
People to soften the way that they respond to the things that they see on TV that are negative. So the idea is that they kind of train the minds of those who watch their content to believe that we are now in a world where racism, although it may be a thing, it's not as bad as it used to be because so many people are tackling the issue and it's something that just does not show up. So it gives the facade too, from an implicit standpoint, that we are living in a more equitable society. And a lot of these seat at the table Negroes just eat this bullshit up like it's...
Exactly. I think I'm going to use that. Exactly. Well put. I think I may try to borrow that. Seat at the table Negroes. That's exactly who falls for this shit.
It's the best shit smoking. They act like when they see these images that this is something that they had prayed and hoped for, because ultimately the reason why they try to champion these images is because they don't really want to dismantle the system of white supremacy. They want to find complacency in that system. So they often will champion these images because they believe that this is a sign that things are really changing. Yet and still, black folks don't have their reparations. Black folks don't have laws to protect them, but Y'all are cool because Penny Proud was talking about some damn reparations? I want to be clear for those of you all who are going to purposefully try to misconstrue what I'm saying. When you see these types of images, I'm not saying that the things that they say in there are not true. What I'm saying is that they are being misleading and deceiving. These are individuals who are trying to give you the facade like they care about social justice, when in actuality, they're just using these kind of controlled opposition narratives in order to have content to fuel whatever it is that they're putting out there. Exactly. So what I'm saying to y'all is, when you sometimes see these seat at the table Negroes champion on these types of images, I'll be honest with you, sometimes what they're actually portraying are true. You know, sometimes these kind of justice-oriented narratives that they try to portray in these shows, it's actually like them telling the truth, but they subtly do it in a deceptive way. Yes. It's not for a good reason. It's for them to build their brand on this idea that they support justice narratives. So it's for the purpose of content, not for the purpose of dismantling an oppressive system. Last thing that I want to say about this, y'all, I also noticed that they tend to not put straight black men in the picture whenever they're trying to create pro-black narratives. If anything, most of
another thing that this devil does that we've always told you, all right? Because he never wants to portray a strong black straight man. No, we can't have that. So what he'll usually do, he'll put the black woman, all right, or one of those LGBTQ types.
Most of the time, they have a black woman leading the charge whenever they try to show this. And I think that they do this from a psychological standpoint too, because they look at this idea that women are really into imagery. And so they try to appeal to them by showing things that make them look powerful, that make them look cool, make it seem like they're doing something that is positive. So they know that a lot of them, especially those who aren't educated on the things that are kind of going on, are going to eat these types of images up, and they appeal to them in that way. So they, at the same token, try to undermine the image of black men by saying that we can't be man enough to stand up against oppression, to the point where our women are the ones who have to take the lead. So they portray a false narrative while, again, profiting from the image that they show. The point in saying all this is that the reason why I don't like when shows tackle racism is because it's a cheap way for them to garner the attention of individuals who are foolish enough to believe that these are signs that our world is changing for the better. See, the thing that you have to understand about people is that everybody is obsessed with a happy ending. Although someone is showing something negative, they are just obsessed with quickly seeing a solution or quickly seeing how it was fixed or it was solved. Racism ain't solved, y'all.
And this actually goes deeper because of, as he just put it, people like a happy ending. We know this devil, what we call Hegelian dialectic, the problem, the reaction, the solution. A lot of you are going to fall for this shit for that simple reason, as he put it. You love that happy ending. You want to see that happy ending. Despite chaos going on all around you, it never dawned on you that this was them setting the stage all along. And they're going to come with the solution that they want. That's going to benefit them. And a lot of you are going to fall for it. And what I'm talking about is the MOTB. And it's coming. It's right. I mean, sooner than a lot of you expect. I'll put it that way. Because this devil is being found out for what and who he is. And it's like, how dare you pull down and tear down this image that I've worked so hard to establish. All right. Let me finish out Proverbs 26. And it says, whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein. And he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him. And that's what's happening. All right. He also, when we go down here to Galatians, all right, we know that these Edomites think very highly of themselves. This is Galatians 6:3. For if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. And it says over here, let me see if I can get it. Let's see. Self-conceit. And we know these are some very proud Edomites. All right. Throughout most of their history. What's the bird that they chose to represent themselves? The eagle. What are the characteristics of the eagle? It says self-conceit, the chief hindrance to forbearance and sympathy towards our fellow men, must be laid aside. But not with Edom. No. Because what? Possessed of some spiritual preeminence so as to be exempt from the frailty of other men. This is what he thinks. As a whole, America is never going to... What? But didn't they have that saying, the sun never sets on the British Empire or some of that shit? So all these empires think that they're exempt. That they, wow. They really think that they're in control. All right. When he is nothing. All right. But yeah, that's mentally deceives himself. All right. Deceiveth his own heart. Let's see. If any man, Christianity, this is James 1:26. If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. So from the very start, he was fucked. From the time of Columbus, you know, the popes and their edicts, their what's the other name? The papal bulls, all that. All right, they were set up to fail. All right, they just thought, yeah, we got it in the bag. Yep, the world is ours forever, as Psalms 49:11 says. They thought that this was going to go on forever. Nope.
That shit is still going on. Sit with it and live with it and continue to do the work. But don't sit around and act like, oh, I gotta watch this for story reasons because I have to feel good about all the bad shit I just saw. This shit is still going on and you need to accept it instead of buying into some bullshit that they put out there and they're profiting off of your ass because you're stupid. Before we get up out of here, I just got one question for y'all and I want you to answer for me in the comments. When was the first time that you saw some type of controlled opposition narrative or some TV show or something in media that tackled the issue of racism and you said to yourself, this is some fake ass shit? All right, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I definitely will have more to come in the future, so make sure you stay tuned. In the meantime, I would love it if you like this video, subscribe, share, and also hit the bell icon so you get notifications for whenever I come out with new content on this channel. Other than that, I will talk to y'all later. Peace out, y'all.
So there you go. Again, like we've always tried to tell you, this is what this devil is all about. Always trying to, like it said there in that commentary, like he's the preeminent one. All right, he tries to set himself up to be the good guy. This is what this is all about, despite, you know, all the wickedness that he's done. He's being exposed. All right, and this house of cards is falling down. There's nothing he can do about it. All right, this is what we're happy about. All right, And this is what why we're trying to tell our people, hey, get yourself in order, repent. All right, because this shit, this whole thing is about to go. The bottom's about to drop out any minute now. All right, don't get caught slipping, as they say. All right, but a lot of you are, because you think we're out here to as entertainment. All right, but that's all right. That's all right. So again, this is Cool Colas. I said Colas, so I can. The problem with black TV shows that confront racism. Uh, uh, they refuse to say the quiet part out loud and buck break. All right. Uh, uh, you, sir, are absolutely correct. I've noticed this trickery when even some content creators, even some content creators on YouTube. Mm-hmm. This is a good point. As I made the same observation. Said all of them know their spouse is a male mutant long before they walk down the aisle with them. I was talking about the character's mother and that static shock, and she knew her husband was like that. All right, but in any case, that's all I have for this. Damn, seat at the table Negroes. I got to remember that. So once again, I hope whoever views this content is edified. That's what we do here at Great Millstone. Filter everything through the scriptures as it should be. All right, because hey, you up on these prophecies is letting you know, hey, your time is short, and indeed it is. So with that, once again, remain circumspect out here. Keep your eyes open. All right, keep your ears. So with that, until the next video, hey, shalom.